Hello and welcome to Before Exams. Here we help you to prepare for your competitive examinations. Subscribe to our channel so that whenever we post the content about your exam, you get the notification about it. Hello and welcome to this section of IELTS Speaking. In this section, we'll be talking about the types of sentences, that what sentences you should use in your IELTS speaking test, what sentences you should not use in your IELTS speaking test, and how can you get the maximum bands by using these kind of sentences. So in this lecture, what we'll be learning is, first of all, we'll be learning what are the types of sentences, what are the various types of sentences. Then we'll learn why you should use complex sentence, and then we'll be talking about the homework exercise. So let's just proceed. Now there are three types of sentences. One is simple sentence, then we have compound sentence, and then we have complex sentence. So these three types of sentences are there. We'll be talking about these sentences one by one. We'll be going through the examples of all the sentences one by one individually, and then we'll be talking about that which type of sentence you should use and which type of sentence you should not use while attempting your IELTS speaking test. So let's just proceed. First type of sentence is the simple sentence. Now, this sentence, it is a sentence which contains only one clause. Now, by one clause, I mean one piece of information. That is, in a simple sentence, there will be only one piece of information. By one piece of information, I'll give you an example and I'll tell you what I mean by one piece of information. So let's say I say, I am riding a bike. So in this sentence, I am riding a bike. I am only conveying one piece of information, that I am riding a bike. So this is a very simple sentence in which I am using only the simple language, and I am only giving one piece of information, which is I am riding a bike. Now, let's look at some examples of simple sentences. Jose waited for the train. So this is a single piece of information that I am conveying in this sentence, which is Jose waited for the train. The train for Jaipur leaves every morning at 10 a.m. In this sentence, I am giving only one information, that there is a train which leaves for Jaipur every morning at 10 a.m. Now, there is a mistake that I have done intentionally in this sentence, in this sentence. I'll give you 5 seconds to figure out what the mistake is. So your time starts now. Okay, time over. I'm sure many of you would have got that what the mistake is. For those who were not able to figure out the mistake, now I'll tell you. The sentence says, the train for Jaipur leaves every morning at 10 a.m. Herein, look at the last 4 words, morning at 10 a.m. If I'm using the word morning, I am not allowed to use 10 a.m. That is, I'm not allowed to use a.m. If I have used morning at 10, that means 10 a.m. only. So this is a common mistake that we do while speaking or while writing, that I did this 11 a.m. in the morning. I'll be going to the park 5 p.m. in the evening. If I have used AM, I cannot use morning. If I have used PM, I cannot use afternoon or evening. Right? So this is what I am talking about. Now, the sentence will be like, the train for Jaipur leaves every morning at 10. Or it could be, the train for Jaipur leaves every day at 10 a.m. So I'll be using either AM or I'll be using morning. I'll not be using both together. This is the mistake that we have in this sentence. Let's look at the other example. I run 5 kilometers every morning. Now, in this sentence also, I'm giving only one piece of information, that I run 5 kilometers every morning. So this is an example of a simple sentence. The pen is mightier than the sword, or there is a saying, a pen is mightier than the sword. So there is only one piece of information that I'm giving in this sentence. So it is a type of simple sentence. The earth is spherical. Again, there is only single piece of information which is being conveyed. So this is a simple sentence. Now comes the compound sentence. Let's look at what compound sentences are, and then we'll be looking at some of the examples. Now, a compound sentence is a sentence which contains two clauses, and these clauses are independent of each other and they are joined by a connector. Now, by independent means that these two clauses means that these two sentences have two pieces of information. That is, a single sentence have two pieces of information, and these sentences are joined. There are two sentences in a single sentence which are joined by a connector, and if we break those two sentences, they stand alone. That means that they have their individual identity. That means their meaning, if I take one sentence at a time, it will be complete in itself. I'll give you an example, you'll understand it better. Jose waited for the train, but the train was late. Now herein, there are two sentences which I have used, and I have connected it with the connector but. So the two sentences are, first sentence is Jose waited for the train. The train was late. So there are two sentences. One is Jose waited for the train. The other is the train was late. Now, if I take these two sentences individually, these two sentences will be complete in itself, right? Jose waited for the train is complete in itself. The train was late is complete in itself. But what I have done is I have used these sentences, I have connected these sentences by using the connector but. Let's look at another example. Anu and James arrived at the bus stand at 10 a.m. and they left on the bus before I arrived. Again, there are two pieces of information that I have combined using the connector and. Greg likes to trek and he is going for a trek this weekend. Greg likes to trek. This is a single sentence, a complete sentence. If I do not use if the other part of this sentence will be complete in itself. Again, if I use he is going for a trek this weekend, if I do not use the information which is before he is going to trek for a trek this weekend, if I do not use the information before this phrase, then this is a complete sentence in itself. So these are the type of compound sentences in which there are two independent clauses, that is, there are two independent pieces of information and they are complete in itself if I do not use a connector. But if I use a connector, I join those two sentences. Again, I am a very good athlete, yet my parents don't allow me to participate in sporting events. So I am using two sentences here and I am connecting these two sentences with the connector yet. I want pizza, but Kenny wants noodles. So again, I want pizza. This is one sentence. Kenny wants noodles. This is the other sentence. They are joined by the sentence, by the connector but. So this is a perfect example of a compound sentence. Now let's talk about the complex sentence. Now a complex sentence is a sentence in which we have one dependent clause and one independent clause, while other, so that is one is the dependent clause and one is the independent clause, right? That means one sentence is complete in itself while the other sentence is dependent on the other sentence which is complete in itself. Let's look at the examples. Because my food was too hot, I kept it for some time to cool down. Now, if I look here, I kept it for some time, that is, I kept the food for some time to cool down, is a sentence which is complete in itself. But if I use this phrase or this sentence, because my food was too hot, there is no information which I am providing with this with this sentence, because my food was too hot. Why? It's because if I'll be using because my food was too hot, then there will be an expectation. What if your food was too hot? And if I'll not provide that piece of information, this will be incomplete. So that is why I say that there is one dependent clause and one independent clause. The clause which is underlined here is the dependent clause. The clause which is not underlined is the independent clause here. Again, look at the next sentence. Whenever the prices of onions are increased, its consumption goes down. The movie was a real thriller, as I expected it to be. Now, the movie was a real thriller is an independent clause here, as I expected it to be. It is a dependent clause here. If I use as I expect it to be, if I say as I expect it to be, what I'm trying to convey, right? The listener will not get anything. That's why this is a dependent clause. Let's look at the other examples. Even though he prepared so well for the exams, he got less marks. When he recited the funny poem written by him, everyone laughed. So these are the examples of complex sentences wherein there is a dependent clause and an independent clause, and this dependent clause is incomplete without the independent clause, while the independent is complete in itself. Now, this is the kind of sentence that you should use in your IELTS speaking test, while you should never use the simple sentence in your IELTS speaking test. Because if you'll be using the simple sentences in your IELTS speaking test, it will not give a good impression to the listener. And here we intend to give a good impression to the listener to fetch the maximum bands. Let's look at an example. If I use this, our university exams are starting from 1st April. Now, this is one sentence which I have used. The other is, I hope I can get good grades this year. Now, there is no mistake in this. But the thing is, it does not look good, or it does not sound good. It does not sound fancy. Let's just make it more advanced. If I use this, our university exams are starting from first week of April, which is earlier than usual. I hope I can get good grades this year, although I'm not sure I will. So what I'm doing is, here I have used some words which is now improving the piece of information that I'm trying to convey. And what I have done here is, I have made these simple sentences into complex sentences. Right? So these are the type of sentences that we should use in our IELTS speaking test, which will help us fetch the maximum bands out of our speaking. I hope now you get an idea that what are the kinds of sentences, what are the sentences that we should use in our IELTS speaking test, and what we should avoid. Now, there is an homework exercise which I want to give you, but I'll only give you on your email address. So I'll mention the email address on which you have to put the request to get the assignment. Just put the request, and then I'll be providing you the email, the assignment. I'll mention the email address on which you have to request. I'll mention that in the description. You can just go ahead. You can ask for the assignment, and I'll be sending it to you. Okay. So I'll really suggest you to attempt the assignments, because if you'll be attempting the assignment, that will really be beneficial for you to go ahead and to prepare for your IELTS exam. Now, only those people will get the assignment who completed the previous assignment and they have submitted it. Okay. Now, that will be it for today's lecture. I hope you enjoyed it. You learned a lot from this lecture. Now, I'll be signing off now. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.